Get down.
What's up, guys? Thanks for joining me for week number 2 of our lift-free weightlifting drills and skills class. We're going to go through a quick little warm-up here, get the body nice and primed to lift. Things that you will need today are a PVC pipe or a broomstick and a barbell if you got one. If you don't have a barbell, don't worry about it. Everything can be done with the PVC. Sometimes for clean work, for jerk work, that PVC and the front rack are a little bit harder to get into, so it is advantageous to have a barbell. But again, if you don't, just try to find something that's a little bit heavier than a broomstick if you got it. If not, we'll use what we have. We're going to start here with 10 repetitions of every little bit of our body moving through this warm-up. So we're going to start with our head all the way down to our feet, so you guys follow along with me.
Don't be afraid, won't let you fall, girl. Don't be afraid, won't let you fall, girl.
Okay, guys, we're going to get started into our snatch work for the day. So to begin this, we're going to work a little bit in the mobility component of this, work a little bit in the start position, work a little bit overhead, just to make sure our body's kind of primed for this movement. So what I want you to grab, we'll grab a PVC pipe to begin this. I actually want us taking this all the way down into as deep of a squat as we can get. I'm going to take 2 hands, slide them in on that PVC, and I'm going to start putting a little bit of pressure in that front part of the knee. So I'm giving myself a little bit more mobility work into this ankle dorsiflexion, which is super crucial to be able to actually get down into a comfortable position to overhead squat. So what we're thinking here, you guys continue to stretch into that first ankle for the dorsiflexion. What we're thinking here is as I overhead squat, if I get down into this position and my body does not have the ability to let my shins shift forward, hard thing to say, shins shift forward, what's going to happen is my chest is going to overcompensate for that. So instead of being able to keep an upright torso, I'm going to start to get more of a lean. Hips are going to push back a little bit. It's going to put a lot of strain on the shoulder. It's also going to throw your balance off a little. So as I'm in this would be a really hard position to dynamically catch weight overhead. So what we need is a little bit more movement from our ankles to allow the hips to shift forward, the knees to shift forward, and now the barbell to be able to sit straight over my shoulders, straight over the middle of my thighs. So what I'm aiming here, go ahead and switch sides, is to get a little bit more space in that dorsiflexion. So not only is it important to push forward into this dorsiflexion, but it's also important to get the sides of the ankle as well, and we'll go into that stretch next. So I'm putting a little bit of pressure on here. You can use a barbell if you want for this. You can use a kettlebell if you want, plate if you have that laying around. Just give yourself a little bit more pressure on the front part of that knee. I'm just going to sit here for about 20-30 seconds, whatever that may be. After I'm done, I want you guys to come down to one knee. I'm going to put the inside arch of my foot, I'm starting with my right leg, on the floor. I'm going to push that knee or pick my torso up as much as I can to kind of put pressure into my leg of pushing my ankle in towards my body. If this is bothersome to your knee, I don't want you driving like your knee that way. We're thinking this is in the ankle. So even if you have to put your hand here to support your knee, that's okay, as long as we're getting most of this stretch coming from the ankle. So I'm pushing that ankle in, tilting it to allow my body to give a little bit more mobility for dorsiflexion. Go ahead and switch sides. So now I'm putting the outside of my foot, outside of my right foot. This one should be a little bit easier for most. So as I'm pushing that foot down, pulling my body away from it, you can even hold that foot down and pull your knee towards your body. And I want you to repeat this process on the other side, just counting to 10 on each side. So what we're aiming to do here, our ankle bone basically moves. So this is my foot, and this is my tibia and fibula. So we have two different bones coming down into this. This is my ankle, right? So this part of my body makes up my ankle. And what stops that ability of the dorsiflexion, so the ankle coming up, is a lot of times these bones are not moving properly to allow my talus to have a little bit of space to actually move up into that position. So what happens is if I'm only working that dorsiflexion and I don't work on opening up some space in this bone, opening up some space in this bone by tilting the ankle, that dorsiflexion doesn't fully open up enough. So that's why we're doing this kind of tilting component to get those bones to start opening up a little bit further. And even if you guys do have good mobility of your ankle, so I have decent mobility, I can hit a pretty low squat. Even if you do have good mobility, this is gonna make your squat feel even better. It's gonna make sure that you're able to put your pressure through your whole foot and not twisting or tilting your foot in a weird way as you catch these snatches. So we should be done without those ankle stretches. Next thing that I want us doing is we're actually gonna utilize a barbell for this next stretch. And we're gonna do what I call rock backs. So we're gonna start in your start position. So right as that bar is coming off of the ground, just as if I were starting my snatch. So my chest is up, shoulders are over the bar, elbows are turned out. And what I want you to do in this position is rock your weight back into your heels, rock your weight forward into your toes, back into your heels, forward into your toes. And as you guys are doing this, I want you to kind of open up the knees a little bit more. This should be an active squat, so we're only going to do 5 of these and then give it a little break. Come back down. I'll turn towards the camera, I guess sideways to the camera. Coming down to my start position, rocking back, rocking forward, rocking back, rocking forward. And as we do this, because I'm holding this tension, I'm actually warming my hip flexors up and warming my glutes up as well. So you'll feel after you've been down there a little bit, your legs will start shaking. I want us doing 3 sets of 5 of these. Coming back down to that start position, rocking back, rocking forward. Should have full control over the whole foot and aiming to feel exactly where the whole foot is coming into contact with the ground. So we don't start too far back and we don't start too far forward in our snatches. Once you're done with that, you can shake your legs out a little. I know that is a spicy start of the warm-up. And then our last thing is going to be with the PVC before we start doing our drill work. What I want us doing here, so my shoulder can move in a lot of different directions. Forward, back, side to side, twisting, back and forth. What I want is to work on a little bit of this axial rotation. So basically this is if this PVC was stabbed into my arm. It should be able to twist and rotate just like a barbell. Okay, so if I bring this arm off of my shoulder, what I'm trying to show you is if my thumb is up, I'm not just moving my hand, I'm actually rotating my entire bicep. So if you guys can see these trees, okay, what I want is the trees to disappear, show you as much of my my little California tattoo there as possible, and then I'm gonna roll it the other way. So I'm rotating my entire shoulder to show you even more of the bottom side of my tricep. So twist and twist, right? If I was doing it on this side, you should see bangerang. When I turn my arm, bangerang disappears, and you should see Captain Hook. If I'm turning Captain Hook away, bangerang goes up, and I try to get those little kids out of the way as much as I can. Okay, so with that being said, the more mobility and the more rotation that we have in our shoulders, the more stability it takes to be able to control them. But if we have a little bit of twisting able to give from the shoulder up and overhead, it allows a little more forgivance in, is that a word, forgivance? We'll see. It forgives your ability to have that bar directly over your head. So if I catch my snatch here, boom, if it's a little bit further out in front of me, I can kind of rotate my shoulders and keep that bar still over my head. Or if it's a little bit back behind me, I can roll my shoulders and get a little more support from my scaps and my lats. So what I want to do is, in this overhead position, I'm going to roll my shoulders all the way forward. I know this would not be a good catching position of the snatch, but I want you to understand that you have that ability to roll forward and roll back. Roll forward, roll back. Just coming from the shoulders, not coming from the elbows or the wrists. Give me 10 rotations, as much axial rotation as you can give me. 10 of those guys. Okay, guys, our first drill, we have 5 sets of 5 reps of a hang snatch extension with a pause. So I know extension and I know pull are used interchangeably. I know people use high pull sometimes as well. So when I say extension, or when I use the drill extension, what I mean is by bringing your elbows up into your full extension. So a high pull, sometimes people just call this a pull, but I want all the way up with those arms. So I'm going to show you and demonstrate this with a PVC first. First off is finding this hang position. So a lot of times people will push the hips back, and in the process of pushing the hips back, the toes come off the ground. If the toes lift off the ground, you're not explosive anymore. So we have to make sure that the weight is not shifting back into the heels as I pull my weight back into my hang. So ensure that your toes stay on the ground. The reason being, you just have to constantly think of this as an explosive movement. So you don't see linemen getting up to the football line all the way back on their toes to the line of scrimmage and just sitting like this, waiting to get knocked on their ass. Okay, you also don't see sprinters getting all set up into the gates and blocks, and then they drift their weight back into their heels. They start forward into right where those toes come into connection with your full foot. So we should make sure that we're keeping that in contact with the floor. Not so much that the heels lift off the ground, but so much that I should be able to jump as high as I possibly can at any point of this lift. So as I come down, I'm in my snatch position. You guys can do this first one with me. Feet are underneath the hips. I'm going to lean myself forward till I feel my toes grip the ground. So leaning forward does not mean a lean forward with the torso. I'm going to lean forward as if someone were pushing my whole body forward, and I can feel my toes kind of go as I lean forward. Once I find that position, do not let that position leave when you go into your hang. From here, I'm going to just unlock my knees slightly. So you're kind of corkscrewing out to the side. My weight is then going to shift a little bit into the outside of my foot. So I'm outside and forward. As I'm in this position, chest stays up nice and big, constantly pulling that chest through the shoulders. As I shift back, weight is going to come down to above the knees. So my barbell's above the knees. My chest is up nice and strong. I have that bar straight up against the top of my knees. From this position, I need to stand. Everything is one unit. So I'm going to start standing. Bar is going to pull into my hip. Knees start to come back underneath the bar. Once I get into this position, I'm going to extend. So I come up. That bar goes straight up my body. Elbows come straight out to the side. And I'm going to hold. After a count of 3, I can come back down. Okay? What almost always happens is this. We get into this hang position. People stand up. The bar comes off of the body. So now the hips have to come up to the bar, and it pushes the bar out and away. And then we're constantly fighting to get the bar back towards our body. So this is a drill to really feel where the bar is going at every single point of the lift. So don't speed through this. Let's do this first set together. We're going to do 5 of these snatch extensions. I'll turn towards you first, and then I'll just slowly start to turn sideways to the camera so you guys can watch every single rep. Make sure that you're standing, elbows point out so we get that nice fluid pull of the bar. Weight forward, chest stays up. As my chest is up, my back is nice and strong. Okay, we're gonna go down to that first hang, down to the hang. With me now, slowly start to stand. Keep the bar on the thighs, sweep the bar into the hips. At the hips, we start extending upwards. Fully extend through the ankles, start shrugging, pull that bar up. We should be at the bottom of the sternum, no higher. Elbows should be up above the bar, shoulders should be internally rotated. Relax, come back down. Slow, steady, up to the hips. We extend through the hip, the knee, the ankle, then the shoulders shrug, then that bar travels up the chest. Back down. Turn sideways. Again, go. Slide in. Get that bar right into the pocket of the hips. Extend through the hip, knee, ankles, shoulders, elbows, pause. Back down. Last one. Start standing. Pull the bar into the hips. Hips come underneath. Extend. Shrug. Pull. Pause. Okay? Before we get started into the second set, I'm going to go through this set with the empty barbell. A lot of times in Olympic weightlifting, people are thinking they have to be as fast as they possibly can from the point on the ground to overhead. And a lot of times that makes people miss individual stopping points along the lift. So if we think that we're starting from the ground, I'm just going to show you a full snatch here. If I go as fast as I can off the ground, almost always your body's going to lift first and then the bar is going to start coming up. So now I'm already out of position with the hips higher and the legs almost straight, losing a lot of strength from the legs. Once that happens, now when I get to the knees, the bar is automatically going to be out in front of me. Okay, if I'm speeding through this, almost always the hips come forward into the bar. We pop the bar out. And once I'm here, it is now just a race to get underneath the bar because there's really no upward trajectory. It's more of backwards trajectory. So once I get into that position after the hips have knocked the bar away from me, now it's just a race because nothing is happening here except the momentum that I created from my hips banging into the bar. What we have to think is from the floor, I know we're going from the hang, but from the floor, we're in this position. This is a deadlift. So we're thinking that we're going to start pushing with the legs against the floor, keeping positioning with the rest of the body. We get to the knee as the knees move back and out of the way. Barbell passes the knees. Hips start to move forward. Once I get that bar up into my hips, this is an upward movement. So my hips are opening up straight. My knees are opening up vertical. My ankles are opening up vertical. If all of those are going up, that barbell is now going to get upward force or upward trajectory. So once I extend upwards, now the shoulders move. Sorry about that S. Now the shoulders move. So I extend up, shoulders move, arms are relaxed enough that now my arms can start taking over. Very often what I see is extension under. And everybody misses the point of where we put the upward trajectory into the bar. And very often you won't notice that until you get around 75-80% where the lift is fine. Then we add enough weight where now that little bit of no patience or that little bit of overuse of speed is going to miss a ton of the lift, okay? So what we need is a little bit of a pause here to make sure that that bar is going straight up. What this movement is going to look with the barbell, if you want to try it, it's a little bit harder to hold that extension, pushing down to that hang, coming up nice and slow, extend up, hold, and back down. From here, up, stand up, pull back down. If your weight is shifting backwards, just like mine almost did, it's probably because I leaned back. Okay, if you fall forward, you're probably leaning forward with the shoulders. That's what that pause is there for, to make sure that you have balance going upwards into the bar. Go ahead and finish. You have 4 more sets of 5 reps if you have not been doing your reps along with me. 4 sets, 5 reps. right, guys, good work. Next and last drill for the snatch. We're going to do what we kind of picked up on last week with the slow snatch, but now we're going to go slow until extension, and then I want us going fast underneath it. Okay, so we'll do this first set with the empty bar, PVC pipe, not empty bar. Start with the PVC first. I'm going to roll my bar back so I have a little bit of room. We have 8 sets of 3 reps, slow snatch to fast snatch. So what I'm looking for here is good movement underneath the bar and good confidence underneath the bar, which I know is lacking on a lot of people. So if you have a hard time with that, stick with the PVC until this gets a little bit more comfortable. So I'm starting from the floor. I'm going to start going up nice and slow, same speed as that extension, coming up through the bar, extending through my hips, starting to pull, and then finishing by pulling myself under the bar. Okay? Again, slow, steady, into the hips, extend, under. So you'll start that pull. Once that bar gets to about the under part of your rib cage, you're going to pull and then pull yourself underneath that bar. If you get comfortable with this, we can add weights. Don't use your bar on your foot like I just did. Disrespectful. All right, so we'll start from that floor position. Slow, fast. I jumped forward a little bit, so I'm going to make the adjustment to wait a little bit more. Be more patient. Up, extend, straight down. This is really, really going to help your ability to pull yourself underneath the bar. This is something that I struggled with a lot. So what happened was I was snatching, I was pulling the bar as high as I could, being as fast as possible underneath. A lot of times that bar would crash. A lot of times I would end with a press out, but I was strong enough to support the weight over my head. So I still made the lift, but I always finished with the press out. Once I figured out how to actually pull and be aggressive underneath the bar, it changed my world completely. My snatch improved tremendously. I stopped jumping backwards, and I stopped moving horizontally with the lift. You get in much better control of the bar, which always ends up with a more controlled lift. We have 8 sets of 3. Take your time on these. If you want to start and just practice a couple reps with the PVC, go ahead and do so. If you want to then move to the bar and try that out, you can do that as well. Just have to be a little bit more controlled with the empty bar. Let's go ahead, 8 sets of 3. All right, guys, going into our clean work today. Opening up the front rack is important to do before we start into our cleans. So one thing that I want us doing is just taking the PVC, putting it behind your back, let go, let's say with the left side first. So when you're looking at the screen, it's going to be opposite. So I let go with my left hand. Bar's going to come back behind you. Take your left hand, reach across your body and grab onto the PVC. Wrap your entire palm around the PVC, and then you're going to go ahead and give me a lift. You should feel a stretch in the chest, in the shoulder, a little bit in the tricep and the lat. Once you've kind of sat here with the bar across your chest for 10 seconds, go and just open up, and now you really are going to feel that bar start to open the trap up, start to open up the lat. Just give me as much external rotation as you can. You can even kind of pulse into it. 10 seconds across the chest, 10 seconds away. You can just switch hands behind your back. Take the right hand, pick up the PVC, pull that PVC up across the chest. Same thing here, and get the whole hand around if you can. So also stretch out the elbow a little bit as well. Away from the body. 10 seconds of each. And then you're going to pick up your bar. We're going to take it behind the head like a back squat. Let the bar roll into your fingertips, bring the elbows up, and just relax into this position as much as you can. The higher you can get your elbows, the more stretch you will feel. 10 seconds here. Pop that bar back up and over, and go back to the PVC. 3 rounds of that, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. Okay guys, starting off our clean work. One of the biggest mistakes that I see in the clean is people over pulling. So once they get that bar up to their hips, they pull, that bar comes up to about here as they're getting underneath it. So then we end up with this disconnect of the bar all the way up on top of them and slamming down into the bottom of the squat. So if that weight is coming down and slamming on top of you and the connection point isn't as tight as it can possibly be, you're gonna end up bottoming yourself out. So all of a sudden you end up completely standstill, and you got to give me a couple of these guys to get out of your clean. It's going to completely collapse your front rack position, and you're going to drop the bar out in front of you, or even times it's going to hit you and it's going to make you fall flat on your butt because it hit you backwards. What we need is as tight of a connection to the shoulder as possible. So we clean, we pull, wherever that pull takes us, we're getting our shoulder underneath the bar. So I'm basically pulling, extending from here, pulling, and then floating, not pulling myself underneath the bar, not floating myself underneath the bar. So I get here, and then I pull that shoulder right here directly underneath that barbell. So what we're thinking, I'll do this nice, slow, and steady with the PVC. I'll just go from the hang. I start to stand, same thing as the snatch. Hips start to come under. I extend through the hip, the knee, the ankle. I pull up, and now I'm going to pull this bar straight to my shoulder. I'm just going to go and do a power clean. There's no movement up and coming back down on top of the shoulder. The drill that we chose for this is going to be, I call it a top drop. Okay, so we're going to come up to the top of our clean where I'm in full extension of the ankle, the knee, the hip, the chest is up, that bar is all the way up as high as I can get it without having my elbows go backwards, as high as I can get it, and I'm going to drop into a power clean position. Okay, elbows are coming up, feet are about shoulder distance apart, chest is up, and I'm in a very strong catch position, not leaning out into the bar. Okay, if I caught this and somebody was pushing me from the forward or the back, I shouldn't fall forward, I shouldn't drift backwards. What we're doing is you guys are going to give me 3 sets of 3 into a power position, and then 3 sets of 3 into a full. Okay, regardless of the weight, because it's a PVC, I should still have minimal gap between the pull and the connection point or the catch of my clean. So what I'm aiming to do here, I'm going to start in the hang, come up nice and steady, can come into that extension. I'm from the top down. Okay. If you want to work on the second pull, so as I'm coming up through here, I extend, I pull, you can, or you can just start up here, straight underneath. Okay. Now I'm going to do a set of 3 into my full, just to give you an example. So I'm all the way up, all the way up. Good strong connection, good strong catch. 3 sets of 3 power first, and then 3 sets of 3 full. Work on a good strong connection. Taking what we just learned from our top drop cleans, we are now going to work into a high hang. So a high hang in the clean, arms are relaxed, hips are bent. So hips come down, knees are bent, shoulder starts a little bit over the bar. So I'm going to start from this high hang position with just a little bit of bend in the knee. I'm going to extend and catch this thing in the power clean. Aim to do this with an empty bar if you have it, okay? So now we're going from that PVC into an empty bar, really working on minimal space between our extension and our drop under. I'm going to catch the bar and I'm going to hold that position. What you should feel is somewhere between a full lockout and parallel. So we should be in about a quarter of a squat. Chest should be up, elbows should be high, bar should be sitting nice and still and strong on the shoulders. I'm going to hold 2, 3, go into a front squat, and stand up nice and strong. In that front squat, don't get lazy. Don't let me see the elbows drop. Don't let the chest drop. Okay, so if the issue is the mobility of the front squat, aim to just keep pushing the elbows up. If the first thing you think about in the bottom of your squat is to pull your elbows up as if they're on strings, that will help. One other thing that I've seen is narrow elbows. Okay, so if the elbows are too narrow, it's not going to allow you to hold on to tension in your lats. So the elbows need to be a little bit further apart. So think to push them out and up. And now we're going to be able to grab onto a little bit more shoulder stability, a little bit more lat stability, a little bit more chest strength is going to help keep that rack up. So just make sure you think about that if you have a hard time in your front squats. What I want this movement to look like, we have 8 sets, 3 reps. There is a 3-second pause in the catch of the clean. So I'm going to grab my bar, arms stay relaxed. I'm going to kind of come down into my high hang position. My chest is over the bar. My knees are bent. I have my good positioning in my feet. I'm not too far back. I'm not too far forward. Right solid smack in the middle. Extend and catch nice and strong into your power clean. Hold, 2, 3, squat, stand. Come back down. High hang. Back down. You can work with this. If you have trouble holding that power position in your parallel, you can do what I just did. Find that connection in the parallel. Finish your squat. Stand back up. 8 sets of 3 of those with the empty bar if you got it. Go ahead and go. Good job, guys. Made it all the way to our jerk work for the day. We are moving first into a pressing split just to get comfortable in terms of that split positioning. All right, so a lot of times we get too narrow in the split, which we actually have a drill for coming up. But I want us just getting comfortable sitting our weight back. What I should see is a straight line from that shoulder to the hip to the knee, and the hip should be square. Okay, we shouldn't have any rotation in them. A lot of times that rotation actually comes from the back foot being open. So if that back foot opens, what you can see is as I open that foot, my hips actually turn towards this side of my body, which is really going to turn my torso when I have the bar up and overhead in my split jerk. So instead of that, what I need to see is the heels actually both pointing out. So if I turn towards the camera, bring my feet into my jerk position, back heel is up slightly from the ground, heels are pointed out, and my body is sitting back into this back leg. I should feel like I can lift my leg up of this front leg without affecting the positioning of my back leg. So there should be able to be a little bit of movement from this front leg. If I'm overloaded in this front leg, I won't be able to pick it up without everything shifting back. So usually the biggest mistake that I see is everybody's weight tends to drift forward into the front part of their thigh, and I'll show you the reasoning behind that once we get into our full jerk. We are going to start first with a press from the jerk, or press from the split. 3 sets of 5 of these. Just go ahead and use your empty bar if that is light enough. If it's too heavy for presses, you can use your PVC. I'm gonna get my weight back, press it straight up, and coming back down. Getting your chin out of the way. If you look slightly up in the positioning of this press, it gets your chin slightly out of the way. Also note that my elbows are pointing down into the outside, okay? So they're not up in a front rack position. The bar's actually in between my thumb and my forefinger. Elbows are in front of the bar, but they're pointing down and out, which is going to allow this bar to press directly up without having to go around my face, okay? Give me 3 sets of 5 presses from the split. All right, guys, next drill we have drops or jerk drops, okay? So jerk drops, just like a top drop for the clean. What we're thinking about here is bar is going to start on the crown of my head. PVC is going to start on the top crown of my head. All right, I'm going to come up into my fully extended position as if I just dipped and drove out of this jerk. Bar is going to start over the crown of my head, so I can think that this is just going straight up and overhead. Our full intention here is working on our footwork. All right, so as I'm in this, PVC starts on my head, come up on top of my toes and legs should be directly underneath the hips. For me, I like a little bit wider positioning in my jerk. It's just a personal preference, up to you. So as I come out of that jerk, I'm going to drop, back foot. I'll just show you here with a little bit of help from my bar. Back foot is going to slide and plant. So I'm taking a slight outward trajectory with my foot. After this foot plants, it's going to allow myself to step this front foot forward. So there is a very micro difference between the back foot hitting and your front foot hitting. So I'm up into my extended position. I'm going to drop, slide, step. Okay. As that front foot lands, that's when my arms should be locking out. Drop. If I do this from the side, what we should see is that I'm not pulling myself back. I'm going straight up and straight down. Straight up, straight down. Okay, making sure that your positioning is solid against that back foot. Arms are straight up and overhead. Go ahead and do 3 sets of 3 of those jerk drops, and then we are going to add an element for 3 more sets of 3. Okay guys, for the next 3 rounds of my jerk drops, what I have is, this is a piece of cardboard. You guys can use a towel, anything that you can basically set up to about shoulder distance apart, okay? What I want is, we're going to start our feet on top of the towel or on top of, for example, cardboard. These are directly underneath my hips. This is going to now start the descent of my jerk. So I'm going to come up to the top point of my jerk. When I move and drop into this jerk, my feet are going to end up alongside this piece of cardboard. Okay, I have a plate here just to basically hold the cardboard down, but you guys can get a little bit creative with this if you want. Coming up into my jerk, making sure that I'm not going to step on that plate. Coming up, as I drop, right foot's going to move back because that's my back foot. Left foot is going to move forward and slightly out. Go. Back up. Go. This is going to make sure that we are not tight roping. So I'm not landing with my foot here and my foot here, and I'm trying to balance myself out of my jerk. I'll show you that from the side. Feet start up onto the cardboard. I come up into my drive of my jerk and drop. And drop. Making sure that you're finishing every rep. Barbell, shoulder, hip, knee. 3 sets of 3 of those. Go ahead and go. Okay guys, fun part coming here. New drill for most people. We're going to work on the split clean. Split clean. Okay, so a lot of people think that the split clean, just because it has the word clean in it, is for clean work. This is actually to reinforce the speed of your footwork in the jerk. So yes, I'm going to clean the bar. I'm just going to start from the hang. Bar's going to start from the hang. Going to start to come up, extend just like you wouldn't a clean, pull just like you wouldn't a clean. Now I'm going to move my feet into my jerk catch positioning, and I'm going to catch the bar on top of my shoulder. So once I'm here, feet move into my jerk. 1, 2, catching the bar nice and strong on my shoulders. This also reinforces the ability to keep your torso straight. Okay, so I'll be able to tell if I'm leaning forward with the bar on my shoulders, it's going to be really hard for me to finish this clean. All right, we have, what I got on this one, I don't want to make you do too many of these. We have 8 sets of 3 reps to practice this really funky and weird clean positioning. You may want to start with the PVC because you don't want to hit yourself in the chin. I'm going to start and demo with this barbell, coming down to just a normal hang position. I'll do my first one from the front. Chest is up, coming down to that hang. Start standing, feet move into your jerk positioning. Any sort of movement here just to make that adjustment, so you can see that my front heel actually ended up pointing in. I'm going to turn that guy out, make sure that my weight is back, and then I'm going to recover just like I would out of a jerk. Front foot, back foot. Turn 45 degrees from you guys. Coming into my hang, go. Turning totally sideways to you guys. Making sure that my foot doesn't come off of, there we go, off the platform. Coming down to my hang, go. Really working on good, solid footwork here. If you do want to add weight as you build up into those 8 sets of 3, go ahead and do that. Have fun with today's programming. It was a delight to coach you guys. Keep it up and stay tuned for next week.